This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories, and welcome to my review of the Prequel Trilogy. I mean, I could say there's going to be spoilers, but this trilogy's been out for 17 years. Well, it ended 17 years ago, and I really don't feel like I need to say that. Plus, I'm going to be using footage from Skywalker Saga that shows the end of Revenge of the Sith. Might toss in Phantom Menace Attack of the Clones clips too. Not sure, it really depends on how much time I have to edit. But let's just go straight into this. And with the first film, we have The Phantom Menace. And The Phantom Menace, it's a okay Star Wars film. Looking at them, I would rank it definitely above most of the sequel films. It is flawed, but still is enjoyable. With it, there is many elements I do love. Qui-Gon is a great character. His relationship with Obi-Wan is also great. I'm totally fine with young Anakin, and I don't mind the political stuff, especially after reading Darth Plagueis, and that gives you just such a greater appreciation for everything going on. And with it, this film I would say is good overall, but it has one major problem with it, and that is Jar Jar Binks. And especially looking at the first two films in the prequel trilogy, I'd say the films overall are really good, but both have one major flaw in them. And with this one having Jar Jar Binks as a flaw, that's definitely understandable. Jar Jar is a very annoying character, and he's probably one of the most hated characters in movie history. But with it, if you really look past him, the film overall is really good. I really enjoy just seeing how Palpatine takes his first moves to take over the Republic, using this entire crisis with his homeworld just to be elected Supreme Chancellor. Although young Anakin isn't the greatest thing ever, and it's a little odd that he falls in love with Padme since they met when he was 9 and she was about, I think, like 14, I think. But still, it is still interesting to see him. The pod race scene is really great, and looking at the rest of it, the invasion of Naboo is still interesting. Getting to see just how bad things are in the Republic before everything was taken over by Palpatine shows how he was able to manipulate everyone into everything that went on. And although I do agree that some other things could have been done with the Phantom Menace and have it set when Anakin was a little older, and maybe even just have it cut out and sort of start with Attack of the Clones. Although I think that could work, I still think that the Phantom Menace is a unique and different film, and I wouldn't cut it out because all there is stuff like midichlorians, I never really hated that too much, and stuff like the Mortis arc and Darth Plagueis maybe really be fine with stuff like midichlorians and the Prophecy of the Chosen One. But yeah, besides all of that, I don't think there's much more I can say about the Phantom Menace. And with it, we both have some great stuff. Oh, I nearly forgot to mention the greatest part of it. So there was something to say. The lightsaber duel in this is just one of the greatest, with John Williams' great theme of Duel of the Fates. We get an insane lightsaber duel between Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon, and a very emotional end to the Jedi Master. And we just see how this goes and shapes everything, with this going if everything with Maul went differently and Qui-Gon lived, Anakin would have had the master he needed. But since he didn't, he had Obi-Wan, who wasn't fully prepared for this. But still, looking at it, I still really enjoy everything to happen here. I think that The Phantom Menace is still a good but flawed film, and even though Darth Maul isn't too developed here, and more just serves as a more mysterious villain like Boba Fett did in the original trilogy, I still think that it's cool to have Maul here so he can return in the Clone Wars to be developed a lot more. Moving on into the next film, Attack of the Clones, there's a lot more interesting stuff that happens here. With it, this is one of the most important for setting everything up with Palpatine's rise, where he goes and orchestrates the Clone Wars and sets everything up for the Jedi Order to be eventually destroyed. And with this, again, I think it's an overall good film that also has a major flaw. And with this film, I would say that its flaw is sort of the romance between Anakin and Padme. Of course, there is the infamous I don't like sand scene. And with this, yeah, I think that you definitely can be going against that, but it's a little more justified than the pretty bad writing with Jar Jar Binks in episode 1, because with Jar Jar, he's just unbearably annoying. Although he is intended for kids, like little kids, it's just really annoying to have him in there. But at least with Anakin's pretty bad dialogue when he is flirting, you can understand that he is, I believe, 20 in this film, and he has never flirted before. He's lived in both as a slave and then in an order where he has been told not to form any attachments. So with this, you can definitely understand how Anakin is not going to be good at this. And although that's not the perfect excuse, it is still some pretty bad lines, like how he doesn't like sand, which is honestly now just more funny than bad. And lines like how he truly deeply loves her is from Revenge of the Sith, but still with it, although it does have some pretty bad dialogue for when they're falling in love, I'd still say the film is overall really good, with it being a mystery into the clones, a mystery that is not even fully solved by the Jedi in this, and you're left to mainly guess with it, and it's never really fully revealed until both Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars made it more clear about just how involved the Sith were in the creation of the clone army. And with it, there's some pretty interesting stuff. Obi-Wan's investigation, as I said, is really interesting as he just discovers everything. He tracks down Jango Fett, and he eventually figures out just all the different things with this plan and how the clone army has been prepared, but also how the separatists are preparing their droid armies. And with it, that was interesting. And moving on to the other side, we just get to see how things are getting more and more complicated between Anakin and Padme as they are starting to fall in love, although both know that they shouldn't. And as I said, although it's not perfectly written, it's still at least understandable. And we're looking at everything else. I think things are just getting great once Geonosis picks up, since there isn't as much of the love stuff, and we just get to the beginning of the Clone Wars, Battle of Geonosis, and the battles with Dooku. Because I think both battles with Dooku are interesting, with Anakin and Obi-Wan's pretty major defeat. But then us getting to see Yoda fully unleashed for the first time as Yoda goes nuts on everyone, and yeah, that was really interesting to see. And although some people do not like it, I really do enjoy it. I think it's so cool to see Yoda at the height of his power and showing that he was skilled, but also this just sets up to show how he is the best to train Luke later on, and how he learns from all these mistakes he makes during this era, and why he will eventually stop using his lightsaber. But yeah, with this, I really did enjoy just watching all of this. There's some pretty interesting things to go and see and look at the formation of the clone army and more. But yeah, with it, I think that's really all I have to say about Attack of the Clones. And now to move on to the final film, Revenge of the Sith. And Revenge of the Sith is definitely the most important film in Star Wars to connect the two trilogies. With this, it is the moment that the galaxy changes forever when Palpatine is able to declare the Empire. And with it, the story is just real interesting. And honestly, I really just love all the Star Wars films from basically episode 4 to around 6, where, and with the exception of Solo, which I wouldn't put into my tie, I would basically say, and Rogue One, kind of. I would say, honestly, with first place in films, that episodes 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all really close. Because although 3 does still have some of the flaws of the other films, they are way less. And even though I know some people absolutely hate this film, while other people absolutely love it, I'm really in more towards the love it section. And as I said, it could be, in my opinion, close to first place. It's really hard with Star Wars films. And I just love everything in both the original trilogy and episode 3 to all be just so close. And with it, when I watch Revenge of the Sith, I now watch it combined with basically everything that happens at this time period. So we'd watch the Siege of Mandalore arc and a little bit from both the Bad Batch premiere and the Kenobi premiere. I talked a little more about this in a video a few weeks ago, and hopefully I'll remember to put that in a little card. I'm recording this a few days early, but I'm still planning to go and upload this a little bit later so I could go and pull the footage off. And yeah, with it, things are still really interesting with this film, and I really do enjoy it. But moving on to the specific stuff of the plot, with it we have Anakin's fall to the dark side and transformation into Darth Vader. And of the other things that are interesting, we get to see the Republic's transformation into the Empire, and get to see some of the beginnings of the rebellion, although it's a lot less than what would have been in the original cut with some interesting deleted scenes. It still is interesting overall, and with this, I think that there was such a great job done with this film. It has probably the darkest tone and theme of all the films in Star Wars, and with this, it has some of the darkest scenes also in the saga, with stuff like Order 66, which is just one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars. There is the epic duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan, and this also has the most lightsaber duels in it, and they all feel just truly awesome as they go up in intensity. You start off with Anakin versus Dooku, where you just get to see just a little bit of Vader in Anakin as he's able to sort of use the dark side to go and defeat Dooku and kill him. There's then Obi-Wan versus Grievous, which is still a really good fight, although I'd probably place it under Anakin and Dooku. But after that, they continue to go up in terms of intensity, with Mace Windu and the other Jedi Masters, although mainly just Mace Windu, fighting Palpatine. And then the two intense fights of Yoda versus Palpatine and Obi-Wan versus Anakin. And that was all just really cool to see. And with it, there's just so many more interesting things in this. And with it, I don't have too much to complain about in terms of what happens in the film. There are some things that, although you can argue it against the film, I don't think it's, too fair to be throwing against it. And with it, you could argue stuff like maybe the fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan is a little too drawn out, which I was having just debate about a few days ago. But still, I think that it still is interesting to see all of this, and I really do enjoy what happens in this film. I think that the events are definitely unique, and it sets up some crazy things that leads to the rise of the Empire, and to show just how bad things were getting in the galaxy. And so there's some amazing scenes in this, like Order 66 and that final duel. And with the ending, we see how Vader is fully transformed and turned into the monster he is in the original trilogy. And with it, although you do feel sorry for him, you see the creation of, depending on who you ask, one of the greatest, and in my opinion, the greatest fictional characters ever. And there's a reason that Anakin and Vader is my favorite, because the character is just so interesting, and I really do love him fully as a character, both as Anakin and as Vader. And with this being the pivotal moment in his life, the moment where he turns into the greatest villain and falls from being the greatest hero, I just really enjoy it. And was one of the hardest things about both watching this and some other Star Wars content right at this time is the fact that it transitions into this, and you just really hope that everyone could remain, happy and live their lives and get a happy ending, but they don't, and all these terrible things happen to them, which causes in just another great trilogy to happen. But yeah, honestly, I think that's really all I have to say. Looking at the trilogy as a whole, there is, of course, the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker, and with it, we get just so many great characters with it. Having sort of a different main character of each film. Looking at episode 1, Qui-Gon is basically the main character of that. Episode 2, you could argue between either Obi-Wan or Anakin, although I'd say it's a little more Anakin in that film. If you're just counting as the good guy, and you could say the same for episode 3. All if you're looking at main character in terms of good guy, it is Obi-Wan, and with it, you get to see Anakin's Fall, since you can't call him the main hero of it. But that's what makes it interesting because it is focusing on Anakin and seeing how he turns into just a monster. And with it, the other thing I'll talk about is the overuse of CGI. Yeah, although they could have went a little more practical and didn't need everything to be a green screen background and have all the stuff like the clones and droids be CGI. It still is important for it to all be there and stuff like Jar Jar to exist because of how important they are to the development of CGI, because like the original trilogy, which I'll be talking about when I talk about the films in a few days, the prequel trilogy is really important to pushing ahead the technology to be in films, although it was a little more on equal footing with some other films like Lord of the Rings around the same time developing the technology. It still is important with Jar Jar, although he is extremely unpopular, being the first fully CGI character in a live action film. And yeah, with that, it still is really impressive. And although some people really are taken off by the technology with it and all the CGI, I am way more accepting of it and really do enjoy the new developments in film technology and am interested in it. And yeah, that's more of a personal thing. And with it, it's shown in the modern day of a lot of people having problems with the volume. Although I'm pretty accepting of that because, as I said, I am interested in the film stuff, and a lot more people are just interested in it not being with this digital background. But I think it's just really cool for them to have, and it's really impressive. And as long as I use it well, I am totally fine with it. But yeah, that's a topic for a different video. But please let me know what you think about the prequel trilogy down in the comments. And I'll see you all next episode of Legends and Theories. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.